Welcome, everyone, and thanks for being here. I'm Vin Treglia. I'm a senior benefits advisor here at Nava. Um, while everyone's getting settled, this is the AI for HR workshop. So why don't you go ahead and open up your AI tool of choice. We are going to be working out of HQ, which is our proprietary AI tool here at Nava. But you're welcome to follow along with whatever you already have access to. Of course, if you're a client, get HQ up. And if you're not sure where to start, of course, there's some free options out there that are great. ChatGPT is at chat.openai.com, Claude's at Claude.ai, and then there's Google Gemini at gemini.google.com. So any of those will work perfectly for today. And as far as the agenda goes, we're not here to talk to you all for an hour and just send you a recording. We're going to be working through things live together. So we built plenty of time in for questions and hands-on practice along the way. And the more you all engage, the more you're going to get out of it. So we're ready to get into it. First, we're going to do a quick round of introductions, and I will kick it over to you, Alana.
Hey everyone, excited to be here. My name's Alana Mauskopf. I am the head of people at Nava Benefits, and I get the fun job of being the benefits decision maker at a benefits company, among all the other things that fall under traditional people ops umbrella. I would say I'm beginner to intermediate when it comes to AI, so I'm excited to learn along with all of you in this session and also to share some HR perspective. And I'll pass it off to Ben.
Thanks. And like I mentioned, I'm Vin Treglia. My role as a senior benefits advisor is to really work closely with HR and our client service team here at Nava on strategy. And I spend a lot of my time just understanding and supporting what HR professionals are juggling. For the past half decade, I've been helping HR teams modernize their workflows, but in the last year or so, I've not seen anything like the impact that AI is having in the HR world in particular. I would say, I consider myself an intermediate. I do kind of forget what it's like without AI day to day, but excited to get into it here. But before we do that, Kieran, over to you.
Cool. Thank you, Vin. My name is Kieran. I am a senior AI engineer here at Nava. I would also classify myself as intermediate. I feel like you go on Twitter or social media and there's just crazy stuff happening in the AI world. So I always feel like I'm behind, but I am part of the team that has built HQ. And as Vin mentioned, that's our proprietary tool. And so I definitely live pretty deep in this stuff day to day. And I'm here today to make sure that nothing feels like a black box to you all. If you have any questions, throw them in the chat as we go through some of these demos. I really want you guys to try and understand what's going on when you use these tools, so you know what to trust, when to trust it, what good looks like, what to push back on, and then again, like what to double check. Great to be here. Good to see you all.
Thanks, Kieran. And so, for how we're going to spend the next hour together, we'll start with a quick AI 101, nothing too technical, just some good framing to help you actually use the tools with confidence. And then we'll go deep on what we believe is the single most important skill when using AI, which is writing a great prompt. And after that, we're going to share some ideas from a mindset shift perspective, in particular that finally made AI really click for me in terms of getting value out of it. And then we'll get into part two, which is the whole point of today, really. That's the hands-on time. So we built some sample files that you can work with. We'll be dropping those in the chat as it's time to use them. At the same time, if you've brought something else from your own to-do list and you want to use this time to just take action on that and move the needle forward, even better, we totally welcome that. But either way, we're here to help you guys work through everything. So let's get into it.
Sweet. So before we dive in, I wanted to get a quick read of the virtual room here. If you would go ahead and drop 1-2 words, maybe a phrase that sort of describes your current relationship with AI. Total beginner, learning, hopefully always learning, dabbling, use it here and there. Are you like building websites, new things with it? Are you in the command line with Claude Code? Like, where are you at? Cool, using it regularly. Building some things with Cowork. That's great to hear. Cowork is a fantastic product as someone who loves to follow along the AI products that get released. Awesome. So it looks like in the general area of learning, some advanced users, ChatGPT. Great. That's cool to hear. Okay. Honestly, this is a perfect range, sort of the range that I think we expected, sort of across the spectrum, right? And that's really a great mix for today. So if you're newer to this, I really hope that you leave today with a great foundation. If you're already using AI, hopefully you can pick up a few things here and there, maybe like one mental framework or a way to think about using AI or what language models are. So let's get into it. But before we start using these tools, I want to spend a few minutes on hopefully covering what sort of one angle on what AI actually is, because there's definitely a lot of noise out there. Sometimes this noise makes people overtrust it. Other times people don't use it at all. So I want to give you hopefully something that's useful and can help you walk the line and think about how to use AI. Cool. Awesome. All right. So for me, one of the ways that I think AI has been super useful and sort of how we're thinking about HQ also is that it's like this thinking partner. It's a really good first draft machine. It's by no means a search engine in and of itself. It can be connected to the wider internet, but language models don't inherently look things up for you. What it does fundamentally, and you've probably heard this like a decent amount of times, is that it really is trying to predict that next word or that next phrase to help you with the task at hand. So they're trained on huge amounts of text, like even more than we can conceptually wrap our heads around. It's like all of the books in the world times like 10. I don't know if that's the right number, but it's pretty crazy. So I think with that in mind, that has two important implications. First, out of the box, right? Like it can be confidently wrong. If a current event happened, and we've sort of seen this before, if a current event happened, that might not be in the training data of the language model. But again, it might not, and the keyword here is confidently, right? It might not tell you that it's wrong or offer some sort of disclaimer. It could give you an answer that sounds completely reasonable and is sometimes just incorrect. I honestly probably like over the past 2 years have seen the number of hallucinations go way down, and that's sort of as the world, as models get better and as we're getting better at using them. But definitely something to watch out for. And then secondly, I think here's what maybe the nuance about that looks like. Confidently wrong happens when you ask AI to answer from its memory, right? Its training data. But the moment that we as users hand it that actual key context, the summary, plan description, right? If you're thinking about the benefits world, maybe a census file, a carrier proposal, really anything that grounds the language model into the source work that you're working on, that's when it's really going to stop guessing and it's going to start reading that context, and that gets into the context window of the language model. So the real skill here isn't distrusting AI, it's setting you up so you can be confident in it, right? Give it that right information, that source material, ask it to verify where it found things, go back and check your work. Awesome. And so maybe the last piece that I think AI is really great for, how I sort of think about using language models and agents, is that it's really easy to go from 0 to 80, 85%. And hopefully we keep on closing that gap, right? Like really easy to go from 0 to 95% and et cetera. But the real value of our job when working with AI is like we bring that last 20%. That last mile is the hardest. And that's, I think, where we're going to sort of lean in as humans and bring that context from your company, your role, maybe your brand kit, how you speak as a company and want to deliver outputs. So yeah, that's I think also where some of this real value comes from is refining and sort of editing what was at 80%. Great. So yeah, those are the two, like I think, at least for me, mental models of how I think about AI.
Yeah, super helpful frameworks. Kieran gave you a bit of the what. I want to talk a little bit about the where. I think these 5 categories are where I've personally seen the most meaningful time savings when it comes to using AI, specifically to help with HR tasks. The first one would be around high volume writing. So anything you've written some versions of before, like benefits communications or policy reminders or manager talking points, AI is a great place to start first drafts with. I think an example is, I'm meeting with managers and I'll record calls where they want to give their employee feedback, but they're having a hard time actually getting the feedback down in a meaningful way. Recording that conversation, tossing it into AI, and helping with a first draft of feedback for that manager. Another area that I love is summarizing and extracting information. So we've all seen benefit summary plan docs that can be as lengthy as a book that are hard to search through. You can use AI to search for key dates, information, and to summarize key information into the most important information that you need. Structuring messy data is another one. When you're dealing with a lot of different vendors who process and share data in different forms, things can get pretty messy. We'll go over this one a little bit live later to show you an example of cleaning up data. So I'm excited to do this one together. And then the next one is process building. So checklists and project plans, are always important, but sometimes don't always make it to the top of the list. It's a great way to get quick brainstorming framework on building new processes. It was time to go over our 401k remittance process. Maybe not the most fun task. This week I put it, our current process into AI and asked for some recommendations to spruce up the plan. And it was a great way to just get some ideas to update our process there. I think another important one is just cutting out the repetitive work. It's not one that always people think about right away, but the tasks that happen over and over, like sending new hire packets, quarterly summaries, reoccurring communications, you don't have to live on our to-do list. AI can handle the drafting, the formatting, and we can be more of the reviewers and the writers. And I'll show you exactly what it looks like later in today's session. We'll work on this a bit too. And with that, I'll pass it back to Kieran to talk about the first step, which is the prompt.
Cool. Thank you, Lana. You guys have all probably heard prompting. Prompt engineering was a thing a while ago. Maybe it still is a thing. But honestly, I think this is maybe one of the most important things that we could sort of take away as an overarching lesson from today, right? Like, our job is to make sure that the task or the role or whatever it is we give the language model or the AI is on point. It is descriptive, and I'll walk through this a little bit more later. But as the engineer, one of the engineers in the room here, I think prompting is a huge part of the story. But one of the bigger levers actually is that what is the system around the language model? What skills does it have? What tools or connections to other pieces of software does it have access to? And the more that you think about and see that in the AI or language models that you use, the more confident you should be that the answers are correct, right? If it has that access to information, then it's going to be really good. Okay, but all that means that we're not going to get into the harness or the nitty gritty today. We'll see what a purpose-built one for benefits looks like later in this session with HQ, but we don't actually need to do much of that work to get real value out of AI today. We can be really specific and descriptive in our prompts, and that works across any chat window, right? And it's a skill that we can master this afternoon. So I think we're going to focus there over this next time frame, but definitely keep in mind that these connections or data and context, that's really valuable. Cool. So this next sort of prompt is everything. What does that mean? Let's unpack it a little bit. We should really think about giving AI 4 things. And this is a pretty simple formula, honestly. Role, task, context, and format. Role is what job are you? You're an analyst, you are an HR communications specialist, as we have it over here. We should tell it what to do on that dimension, because that's sort of it's okay, now it's thinking in this mind space. It's sort of like when I leave work and I go play basketball. I'm a basketball player now. That's sort of the headspace that I'm in. The next thing is task. So what to do, what is on hand. We need to be able to say, okay, write this benefits announcement email to all employees. So initially, okay, great, I'm an HR specialist. Awesome, write the email. Now that's the task. I know what I need to do. And the context, this is, again, sort of what we've talked about. This is, I think, one of the most important things, or what does the language model or the AI need to know? We can think about giving that up front, right? Or we can explicitly ask a language model to seek it out from the information that we've given it in the uploads. So in this case, that's we have these 3 changes: the PPO, the HSA, and open enrollment deadline. Okay, great. We've given the language model what it needs to know. So now we're confident that it will take that information in hand when it generates our answer. And then finally, the format. What does the output look like? Is that markdown with some bullet points? Is it an Excel output? Is it a Word document, right? Like, what do we want the output to be? Really short, maybe long, and the brand is sort of what my company thinks of. So those are I think, hopefully a pretty simple formula. And if I were to pick one of them, I think that making sure that it has the right context and it knows the task at hand. Those are the two that I would really point out. Great. All right. I think one of the single biggest mistakes I see when, and even, I make this mistake too, is I'm like, hey, do this or do X, but I'm not unpacking what X is. So one of the things is like, write something about our benefits. Gives AI almost nothing to work with. What are your benefits, right? Like that's really vague. When I look at these prompts on the screen, I can see that like this other specific prompt maybe takes an extra 20 seconds to write, and it may get you something, again, back to that 80-20, 80% of the way there, something that I'm confident in sending out to the company. And I think another important thing here, and maybe on this iterate piece, is that just because it wasn't right the first time, doesn't mean that we can't iterate our way to get it there, right? Like, we don't have to throw it away. We're like, oh, I didn't appreciate it, or I don't think that fits our brand. One of the things that I've actually seen people at Nava do, and this is one of the sort of most valuable things that I think we can do with AI, is we can actually speak and do speech to text. Because when we speak, our words per minute are through the roof relative to how fast we can type. And that speech is rich context for a language model. Those those ifs, when you sort of go off on a tangent, that's actually all really, really relevant to the task at hand.
Yeah, I'll kind of add to that. When I first started, I'd get mediocre outputs and just assume like AI might not be useful for that task. But what you realize is you need to push back, you need to try different things. And once I started shifting my mindset to this idea, which we talk about in the next slide, of you being the editor, not the author, I think it's just a big unlock there. You're not trying to write the perfect prompt that produces the perfect output on the first try. You're really just trying to get something on the page that you can react to. And I think testing out different prompts and finding out the ones that work best for you can really help with this framework too. Some of the things I like to think about are, like, use this without any hyphens. Make this sound a little bit more like my tone if I share previous articles that I've written or communications that I've shared. So as you're going through it, don't expect the perfect outcome first and foremost, but experiment with different types of prompts and follow-ups to really get what you need, but using the AI as kind of a first draft that you can react to. That's really the whole job there. Speaking of mindset shifts, I'll pass it back to Ben.
Thanks, Alana. So I just want to give a few more mindset shifts before we move on to the hands-on section. They're quick, but they're really things that I wish, that are clear to me in hindsight, that I wish someone had told me kind of when I first got started leveraging AI more regularly in my day-to-day, just over a year ago or so. And so first, if you're not sure where to start using AI, don't spend time looking for the perfect use case. Just start with the task that you dread the most. For example, an HR leader I know, he had built a system that auto-generates employment letters, which is kind of the bane of his existence, based on request type. So whether it's around promotions or compensation adjustments, role changes, what used to be a really manual process was now just one prompt for him, and it's no longer a headache. Second, save what works. This is something that I feel like is an underutilized kind of skill. Every time you write a prompt that gets you a great result, just save it. That could be, just dumping it in a Word doc or, filing it away in some other capacity, like a Notion project manager, something like that. But most people don't do that often enough. They'll get a result they like, and then they just forget the prompt and have to kind of keep starting from scratch. So it can be kind of a time waster if you know like something that works. You don't have to fix it every time effectively. So make that a habit now, and you'll thank yourself later. Third, and this is really important, probably the most important thing, which is just to verify really everything that matters. So things like numbers, dates, compliance details, anything employee facing, especially. To the point we made earlier, like what Kieran was discussing, AI is confident even when it's wrong. And so, you're the last line of defense before something goes out to your team. Like, really take ownership of that. And fourth, and this is the one that I'm most excited for everyone to see today, just set it and let it run. AI does not have to wait for you to ask for it. It can be proactive. So, we're talking about things like being able to schedule recurring reports or, automating different updates that your team needs to receive, or building custom skills that work for specific workflows. For example, a weekly enrollment summary that lands in your inbox every Monday, if you're a benefits leader, or building a monthly compliance summary that or a compliance update, excuse me, tailored to your employee population. These are just a couple of ideas, but we'll show you what that looks like a little bit later in this session. So just keep that in mind.
Awesome, great. Okay, we've spoken to you for a little bit now. We're about to get into hopefully some demos here, but just a quick word on some data security. Before we get into the practice and start uploading files, if you're using a public AI tool today, please don't grab one of the census files that exists on your machine. Those real names, social security numbers, dates of birth, salary, etc. We definitely want to keep all of that out. We've built some sample files, as I think Vin mentioned earlier. They're in the Docs tab. If you look to the chat, there should be a Docs tab right over there. And they're built specifically for this session so that you can follow along and whatever AI tool you're using in, and you don't have to worry about anything sensitive. A general good rule of thumb on this dimension is if you wouldn't send that information to a stranger, or you'd be uncomfortable with someone seeing that on your computer if they were to peek over, definitely don't paste that into any AI tool. If you're not sure whether your company has an approved AI tool or not, that's definitely a conversation to have with your IT team. But if you're using HQ today, you're okay. Again, your data stays within your company, doesn't go anywhere else. And that is it on data security.
All right, so this is what everyone came for. Kieran and Alana are going to walk everyone through a few exercises, and we've got plenty of time for questions. So I'll be monitoring the chats as well as Haley. And so just feel free to leverage that as you try things in your own workflow. If you get stuck at any point, again, just hit us up. We're here to help, and we want you to leave with something useful today. So for this exercise, we're going to take raw open enrollment election data and ask AI to turn it into a summary table by plan and coverage tier with the head count and percentage for each row. So this is something that normally would require pivot table skills, but AI is going to be able to build this just from us using plain language, which makes it much simpler. And so we're dropping the sample OE elections CSV file in the chat now. And like Kieran mentioned, you can also find it in the Docs tab next to the chat icon. And so go ahead and pull that up. And I know I'm ready to see in action. So Kieran, why don't you lead us through that?
All right, here we go. I'm going to take over the screen share. Awesome. Okay. So we are in HQ. Again, we're in our demo environment here. And so I've taken that sample open enrollment file and the raw open enrollment election data and that prompt that was on the page, right? I'm just going to go ahead and hit enter here. And so what we're going to see happen is that HQ is basically going to start thinking about how to work and use this data. And so sort of what is maybe going on behind the scenes as we get into this is like, this is a CSV file, right? Like this is not something that we would just sort of want to inject the context window. We actually want the AI to do a really good job of analysis on this file. So normally, like if a human was doing this or an analyst, it would be like pivot table and look at Excel and give us the percentage, right? Like we want to be confident in these percentages and these numbers. We don't want it to hallucinate that data. So how do we know? Well, we can click into this card here in HQ, and you can do this in all of the AI products too. And you can see like, great, it's thinking through, here are the steps that it took. It didn't just like generate the answer. it decided to take a few actions. And so I think that's like maybe lesson number one here, is that when we have tasks where we know like we wanted to do some math, or maybe I would normally use Excel to make a pivot table, we want to make sure that we're seeing the AI or the model really take a stab at like breaking it down into problems and showing us its chain of sort of like tool use or action. So in this example, we see here's the medical file, 18 enrolled across these plans, these tiers with the head count, dental, vision, and it's even nice it's showing us there were some people that waived also. So again, making sure, and again, that we can see all of these outputs over here is really helpful in HQ. All right,
Yeah,
I will.
Perfect use case of this is when you're going through an open enrollment period and you want to check how many people have signed up for certain plans and compare that to what you're seeing in your carrier portals to make sure those both align. This is a quick and easy way to do that using AI versus creating pivot tables or doing whatever you have to do in spreadsheets.
So I'll hand it back to you, Vin.
Yeah, I'm just kind of curious, checking with the group. I know it's a lot to wield the technology and the chat at the same time, but I'm curious, like what tools folks are using right now, and how you felt that response went in your tool. If anyone wants to jump in the chat, I'll give it a couple of seconds.
And we expect things to look a little bit different between each tool you're using, so don't worry about that.
100%. Okay, we're seeing Gemini, Claude, HQ, a couple of Gemini users. Okay. GPT.
I just shared that chat in that prompt in the chat also, so that you guys can copy and paste that if you want, along with the document.
Someone had to ask for more detail. I think that's a perfect example of like the first prompt doesn't always work, and sometimes you're going to need to give a little bit more direction.
I love the person who said Claude and ChatGPT, pitting two language models or AIs against each other. It's always a fun way to go about it.
Nice. Awesome. Everyone's crushing. Love that. Okay, and a Copilot user as well. Nice. Everybody's got all the tools in the mix today. That's fantastic. All right, we're gonna keep it cruising. So we've got more prompts for you all to leverage, just to get like a few good use cases going here. But before we move into exercise 2, we want to show you what happens when you take some of that enrollment data one step further. And so we're going to ask HQ to build a visual summary showing how plan elections have shifted over the last 2 years. This type of thing is especially helpful when you're showing data to your leadership team, and it'll give you an output that's easily digestible. So, Karen, we'll pass it back to you. We'll drop this prompt in the comments as well, and we'll start giving an example here.
Sweet, I will take it away and go ahead and share my screen again. Perfect. Okay, so I've copy and pasted that prompt in here. And because I really want the model to think about this one a little bit more, I'm going to go ahead and click on in-depth. I think some of the tools that y'all are using, whether it's Claude or ChatGPT or Copilot or Gemini, they will have maybe the option to choose between models. And so maybe the mental model for this is, if this is like maybe a more advanced thing. I want visualizations. I want this for leadership. You care about the accuracy. Definitely go ahead and toggle on that more like smarter or in-depth model. I'm going to go ahead and attach this sample OE. And now that CSV is something that the language model has and can use. And I'm going to go ahead and send that one off. Awesome. So again, what we're sort of doing here is we're getting all of this information up and running for HQ to get ready with. And so this one may take a few seconds, but the output, again, that's sort of required here, or that a data analyst would usually do, it's like by coverage tier. Again, this file is actually broken down year over year, right? So it's not even just this 1 year. It's these people from year 1. What did they go to in year 2? So we need to join across those two data sets and make sure that we can accurately show. So cool. Here again, we see HQ is thinking, it's exploring the CSV, it's getting the value distributions. So if I took the liberty of doing this one previously. So I'm going to go to the history. And and I'm going to go ahead and pop this one open. And so this is what HQ finished with. And let me make this screen a little bit bigger. So if I go ahead and pop this open, I can see HQ, and it was like, HQ actually asked me a question. It said, what format works best? And then it went and it go ahead and it did all of this work to look at sort of how we have instructed HQ, and you can do this with your language models, on how to present information and data. And then I can go ahead and click on this sort of artifact here, and it says elections have shifted towards high deductible health plans. Again, we made this data, so this is very much expected, or what I wanted to see. And it broke it down by plan type, right? So from 2024 to 2025, and then also by coverage tier. It looks like we had more employee and children, maybe a few less family, wave stayed the same. And then we get this nice where the movement came from and by coverage tier. So this is one of my favorite things to do, is when I have this sort of advanced analysis, I just want to give any AI that I'm using that context, that file, and I just want to let it go, like do the work. They're naturally going to start looking through and parsing the data. They may ask you a few questions, but this is, again, one of my favorite tasks is like, how can we get this data that I have in the CSV into some sort of presentable dashboard format that I can show to my executives? Awesome.
I know our Ben admin tools are definitely not building this for us, but this is a great tool to build as you're going into renewal season to help make informed decisions on like year-to-year shifts, or to make a case for any switches that you might have with the executive team. A really like polished tool that you can use in those types of conversations.
Awesome. Then I will go ahead and give the screen back to you.
Awesome. I just want to shout out one question we got in the chat here, and that you might be best positioned to answer. So I believe it's Haraya, and sorry if I pronounced your name wrong, but is wondering, has HQ learned what kind of details to provide based on like having pre-learned or gotten, having been trained on previous data sets?
Yeah, nice, great question. So maybe I'll break this down into two different components. One of them is HQ and who's building it and why it's valuable at Nava, and then maybe how we can apply this generally when we're asking any AI product to help us do this work. So the first one is, thankfully, we have benefits experts at Nava, right? And so they know what the valuable pieces of information are when we have a census file or we have an open enrollment change file, right? Like, they've done that work so many times, and so they're really helping us build that into the product. As for maybe any AI product that we're using, one of the strengths that we can lean on is that in the pre-training data, so all of that text data that it's trained on, there are a bunch of CSV and Excel files and different file formats that it's trained on, and it knows how to parse that information and look at it. And so again, that is really valuable, right? If it's doing any sort of analysis, it's like, okay, I'm going to explore what's in this file. Okay, I've seen something that looks like this before. Let me go ahead and count or sum or count by, count unique, like whatever those are. We can be confident that I think that's going to be roughly correct, especially as we're seeing it write code or do some math to take those actions. So yeah, there's the HQ side of things, and we're leveraging all that pre-training data also, but we thankfully have the benefits experts on our side. And then when we're using any tool, again, right, like click into what it's doing step by step and make sure that it's being accurate. Great question.
Thanks, Kieran. And we got another question that came in. I'm trying to make sure I understand it correctly, so I'll ask it out loud. And then if we need to follow up, we can ask that. But Melanie's wondering if she can ask HQ what other HQ users have asked for with open enrollment census files.
Yeah, well, I love the feature request. Today we don't let HQ see what is happening at other companies or even with other users. Each user must opt into that themselves, and you can share conversations in HQ. So that's one way if you really want to like say, hey, person at my company, like check out, and you can use HQ. Look at this like dashboard I created or this visualization. I think that's like the preferred way that we want to do that in HQ. Again, we're really sensitive about making sure that the right people have access to your information. But I love the feature request, and we'll definitely, I'll give this to the product manager, and we'll think about how can we sort of make sure that if someone's really using HQ well, that can be sort of democratized across HQ users.
Yeah. And even if you can't get insight from other users, you can just ask HQ for ideas point blank, and you might get some pretty good ideas, or any AI tool that you're using. We may or may not have done that for ideas for this workshop.
Thanks, Melanie. All right. So for exercise 2, we got 2 prompts for this one. First is upload a plan document and ask AI to pull every deadline, notice requirement, and employee action item into a single table with who's responsible and what happens if it's missed. And the second one is to take meeting notes and ask AI to pull out every decision made, every open item, and every owner formatted as an action item list. So you can find the sample SPD in the Docs tab next to the chat icon, and we will drop the prompt into the chat. And if you have your own plan document handy, you can use that instead. So let's see both of these live, Kieran. We'll hit 2 birds with 1 stone with this one.
Cool, here we go. Back to the screen sharing. Let me go back to HQ. Awesome. All right, so I have prepped the first one here. And again, that's that plan document that I just uploaded. And what we do is we wanted to read it, give me some information back, and I'll send this one off. One of the things that we do, or maybe that I think is interesting about how sort of some of these products and language models internalize text, and that it's actually hard for a language model to read a PDF natively, right? So what we do at Nava is we take that PDF and we actually get all of the text out of it. We get images out of it. We get a really high density representation of that PDF so that we are confident that it can read all of that text in those images or whatever's in that PDF accurately. And as you can see here, we have given it sort of access to this file path where the file is uploaded and we parse it to Markdown, which is a text format. So that's just a little about what's going on under the hood so that we can confirm accuracy and make sure that we're giving HQ and language models the best chance at answering that question accurately. Awesome. So that was the first one. QLE flags, prior authorization, and these sound like sort of some normal benefits items that may be in a summary plan document. And HQ knows to sort of flag these things, again, because we told it who it is. Hey, you're advising HR teams. You have all access to this information. And so it's really keyed into these moments. Cobra and of the like. All right, we'll go to the next one real quick. And this is one, actually a use case that I've really seen take off recently within Nava. And if you are not maybe doing this, I would highly recommend. So you can see it's extracting text here. Basically, these are just a bunch of meeting notes, right? And so if you use Zoom or Teams or whatever that product is, oftentimes you may get a transcript of that meeting back. And what a lot of teams in Nava have done is they take those transcripts and they're like, great, pull out some action items for me. What do I need to do? What should be on my plate? Or what were the decisions that were made? So I'll go ahead and click that one off here. And I think one of the cool things about this is that now, if it was an hour-long meeting and we had 3 people, anywhere from 3 to 7 people there, what we're now able to do is able to have this like really detailed action item that comes out of these meetings. And so again, yeah, we take that text out, we can see that HQ is reading that full file, so it's in its context window. And here were the key decisions that were made. One of my favorite things about HQ, and I think this is about most AI products have this, is that you can copy and paste this table, right? And I should give it back to HQ. That's how I know it's in my clipboard. But I can send this in the chat. I could send this to someone else. I could paste this in Notion. I could put this in the drive or whatever I need it to be. But nice, yeah, we see some of these action items here. And so this is a great way to sort of to find meaning out of a really long meeting or to know what to do next.
It's nice because you don't have to focus on just taking notes the whole call. You can be really engaged and use this tool afterwards, or you can even use it for like board meeting notes or to, summarize and keep on file when you're talking about important decisions or stuff that you need to keep a record of. It's a great way to have a clean summary too.
Nice. And one of my favorite things about HQ and most of, I think, Cowork and these other products too, they can natively email this stuff to people. And so I just hit the little share and email button, but that's also a great way to sort of, hey, we did these things. Let me go ahead and email that to a user or to maybe like someone who works at my company. Awesome. I'll go ahead and hand it back to you, Vin.
Yeah, I don't remember the last time I took handwritten notes, which is really good because my handwriting is garbage now. Okay. So now we're talking about building the tools that you never had time for. So this is our last exercise, and it's around process building, which Alana mentioned earlier, which is effectively using AI to create the tools you haven't had time to build. So the prompt on the screen is you've got an 8-week open enrollment project plan with owner placeholders and key milestones, carrier deadlines, communication touch points, and a final audit. You can even paste in your actual carrier deadlines and ask it to adjust. And so we'll let this one rip, and then we'll take it from there. Go ahead, Kieran.
Awesome. I have to be honest with you. I knew that this one would take a while, and I deeply cared about it. So I went ahead and did this one early. So I'm going to be showing what the output of this prompt was. And I'll go ahead and show you, here was the input that I gave it. And then I actually added, I want it as a slide deck, right? Like I want to be able to present or to give this to someone. I don't want just text back. I actually want something I can download, send to people, maybe keep track of, send to the executive team. And so in HQ, HQ actually can make pretty beautiful slide decks. So here we have the result of that prompt. And I'll go ahead and I'll click through this real quick. 8-week open enrollment plan. Here's a nice timeline that it gave for us, some foundation and data prep. And this looks pretty good. It looks like something that I would be close to comfortable sending out. Maybe actually I don't really agree with some of the OE windows, and this is too short, right? Like 8 days is not long enough. I want it to be 2 weeks. Those are all things that I could ask HQ to go in and change. And for whatever AI tool you are using, you would be able definitely, if it's able to make a slide deck, you can ask it to go ahead and change that information for you too. But I think this is one of my favorite things. I just gave it like 2 sentences and I said, go make me this output. And it sort of used that pre-training data and the task or the role and the output that I wanted, and it created this great output that I'm getting pretty confident with, right? Like I'm getting close to being able to say, yeah, this looks good. I want to project plan around this. Yeah, this one did take about 2 minutes and 30 seconds. So it can take a while. HQ might even take longer, right, on some instances, because we'd rather it be accurate, or we'd rather AI tools be accurate than they be quick, right? We want them to really do that work. Great.
And you can even, be a little bit more specific to your circumstance. Like, here's the breakdown of my team. Here's kind of what we do, assign tasks to specific people. Or this year we're moving off of a PEO to our own standalone plan, like incorporate that into our plan. So it's really also helpful for things that you might not have done before, or big transitions where you're just trying to kind of get your mind around all that needs to be done and align with internal stakeholders on a plan.
Awesome. All right, I wanted to give a quick sneak peek on one of the things that we are actually going to be letting HQ do in the future. And mind me real quick. I'm just going to make sure to go to the correct URL. Okay, so this is actually what we're calling a scheduled task. And I think actually Cowork may be able to do this. But I wanted HQ to every 5 minutes go ahead and look at all of our census data, and from the time that you had sent the previous email to me to this time, did we get any new census files into HQ? And if so, I want you to send an email to me that has great formatting and tell me what changed. And so if I go over to my email, I can see this email from myself, and it said, great, you had no change in new hires. There was 1 termination, and here's your enrollments over that time period. And then here are some QLEs. So watch out for these. And then here's that plan your context. And again, this is like one of the really powerful things about giving language models access to some of this information in a trusted way is that we can really just like set it and let it run as we talked about here. So this is one thing, like, you would imagine an analyst every week as part of your reporting, I need you to do this. And now we can let AI and language models take some of this action for us. Then I'll go ahead and hand it back.
That's epic. I forgot we're getting a little preview of the roadmap, so I am pumped on that. It also made me laugh before that, like we're like 2 minutes, it took a while. I don't know, it says more about us than AI probably these days, right, in our patience levels, but good stuff. All right. So, we're not going to build this one live either today because I think this might take 7 minutes, which is like a whole year in the modern age. But, we wanted to show you the quick finished product of we showed the slide deck, but I want to show you kind of what it really looks like at the next level with HQ in action. So we typed one prompt, which is a little bit longer. You can see it on the left. And then we used HQ with the benefits data that's already preloaded in the demo account that we have internally to build a fully interactive benefits website. So no small task, but HQ was up for the job. And Kieran, let's get a little preview of it. Oh, you're on mute, my friend.
There we go. I almost had it. I almost went 100%. I was really close. It's the last share. Okay, cool. I actually wasn't even the one who put this together. This was actually done by someone at Nava. She was the one who actually made this website. So you don't even need, again, to be an AI engineer or someone who works with AI every day to be able to get value out of AI tools. So again, we gave it like all of the information to HQ about the benefits package, and actually it exists on the internet. So this is sort of a demo account, right? But it's really cool. It just built this website for us. It has, again, maybe I don't really like all these emojis. Those are things that we can iterate on. But it does have all of these sections about our benefit strategy and benefits plan. So it was hopefully that easy, one click easy, maybe a few more clicks than one click, but it is a great way to sort of see all of that data that maybe isn't a long benefit guide and a bunch of PDFs really come together into a clickable website that is hopefully pretty easy to build and then get on the internet. I will go ahead and pass it back.
Yeah, I can imagine sharing that with new hires or once you've changed your benefits or, during open enrollment. It's definitely a wow factor compared to some other companies that they might be interviewing with.
For sure. And I see Valerie left a great comment, which is a good segue, actually. And I didn't pay her to say this, but she says, I love how HQ already has your data. So it's an EA on steroids, not just another AI tool. This is great. Well said. And with that, we'll take an opportunity. Obviously, we've been demonstrating the capability of AI and, with some evergreen use cases across any AI tool, but there are some distinctly unique things about Nava's HQ, AI platform. And so just a very quick commercial to give everyone some context if you're not already a client and just want to understand a little bit better. So the way to think about it is, everything that we did today, that you all did today was done by uploading files and writing prompts, which totally works. But there is a world as an HR and benefits leader in which you don't have to do either. So your data as a Nava client is already inside your HQ account. And HQ is really, it's an AI platform that we built specifically for our clients to leverage in their benefits work. And it's what we leverage internally. So, we're living and breathing in HQ as the advisors and service teams here at Nava. And we can share an environment with our clients and kind of collaborate through, a single pane of glass, effectively, if you will. Every client's HQ account already knows your plans, your employees, your documents, enrollment. We connect it, to your Ben admin, so the census data is refreshed automatically. And all you need to do is just ask questions. We built HQ effectively because HR teams, know that the answer is in the data somewhere. It's just really like a time issue, like the time it takes to take the steps to manually retrieve that data and build responses is just what keeps, HRs from being in, the strategic seat as much time as they deserve to be. and it's just a data format issue ultimately, right? So data is living in, like 80-page SPDs, a census file, gosh, a drug formulary of 200 pages. I was taking a look at one of those recently. It could be in a carrier proposal in a format that's different from every other carrier proposal, so nothing's normalized. And HQ just completely closes that gap, giving you the same analytical firepower that all the benefits teams of the Fortune 500 companies have, but you just don't need the team with HQ. And so you can ask about individual employees. You can ask about things like trends across different enrollment cycles, or what your plan document says about a QLE deadline. It's really like anything you can imagine. It's going to have all that context on your data, and then kind of it's yours for the taking. So that's what's possible with kind of general AI, but with HQ, it's going to be much more purpose built for benefits. And it's expertly trained, to Kieran's point, by advisors at Nava, and so Nava really becomes greater than the sum of its parts, having the kind of consulting expertise internally as part of the service experience, but then also what trains the tooling itself. Also worth mentioning that it is a SOC 2 Type 2 certified portal, and it is HIPAA compliant. So, to the point you made earlier, if you wouldn't trust somebody over your shoulder seeing data on your computer or sharing with a stranger, you can share all your data with HQ because it does have all the enterprise security grade measures in place in order to support sensitive, PHI and PII data. And this isn't the only stuff that HQ does, so kind of final little overview here, and we'll open it up for questions for the last couple of minutes, but it goes well beyond what we showed you today in HQ. So just a few quick hits on what else is in the solution. We do smarter renewal planning in there, so HQ can model renewal plan options, contribution scenarios, and help do cost impact analysis side by side in the platform in real time. So every renewal recommendation that HR teams have to make to their leadership is backed by like real numbers and data very efficiently, and it's very iterable in the tool as well. So not passing back multiple versions or lag in kind of the exchange between you and your service team. Another piece is there's a portal of within the HQ ecosystem for employees. We're not going to get into that today, but based on the employees using the HQ app, HR gets insights into app adoption, sign-on activity, things like resolution time and ratings for advocates at Nava supporting employees, and even question trends and topics across the workforce, which all gets kind of woven into the education strategy you're around as a client. You can see exactly who's engaging with their benefits and when. And then the last piece that we're really excited about, one of the fresher tools, is our built-in AI auditing solution, which is where HQ can surface census discrepancies between your invoices to make sure there's no missing enrollments or coverage gaps, and it flags what's off so that we can go and resolve that stuff fast, no manual cross-referencing required. And then that'll really just prevent any term employees from being paid for unnecessarily, or making sure that your employees who are supposed to be enrolled are, and they're not showing up at a provider's counter and being told they're not covered. And so this is just a tip of the iceberg with where HQ is at today and what we're continuing to invest in at quite an aggressive pace. So if any of that resonates and you're curious about it, we'd be more than happy to walk you through it. We can even run a scenario in which we actually put your data into it and give you a sense of what it'd really be like to kind of work with HQ in your day-to-day. So just reach out to us anytime. And with that said, thank you all so much for spending time with us today. Skills you practiced, whether it was related to four-part formula, the habit of iterating instead of just starting from scratch over and over, or just the mindset of being an editor and not an author. You can all hopefully put that into action right away. And again, reminder, don't wait for the perfect use case. Just start with whatever's on your desk. And again, if you have any questions on some of your use cases or just more about Nava and our technology, reach out. We'd love to help. Yeah, really appreciate everyone's time. If there's any questions coming through the chat, we'll take a look now. See some thank yous. Appreciation.
While we're waiting for questions, I'm kind of curious to hear how the later prompts went for people. I know everyone was using their own tool, but were you able to walk away with something that was impressive or something that you learned? Curious how those later prompts went for folks while we're waiting for more questions too, if people want to drop that in. And then Melanie was asking if HQ is an add-on to the Nava BenAdmin platform.
Yeah, so just following up on my written response there. Nava is BenAdmin agnostic, but up to about 30 of them or so now, Kieran, keep me honest on that, integrate into HQ so we can leverage data in your BenAdmin system. We do provide employee nav for free for our clients if they don't have one, but we don't need to work in there. We can work with any of those systems. Awesome. Sophia took a lot from the session. That is fantastic. Appreciate you joining, Sophia.
Well, one of the great things about using AI is that AI doesn't get tired. So you can ask it to try 100 times if you have that much usage available. And you never know what it may be able to do for you. So always try.
Awesome.
Thanks, Valerie.
If there are no more questions, feel free to reach out to us on LinkedIn if anything comes up afterwards. We're always happy to answer afterwards if you're playing around with this more and questions come up.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of your day.
Awesome.
Catch you later.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Guys, thank you.